Hello, everybody. I'm going to be reading a story tonight called It's Raining Easter Eggs. Henny Penny was pecking around Farmer Jose's garden when there was a rustle, a bump, and a squawk. Henny Penny jumped a mile. Something hard and lumpy clocked her on the head. Henny Penny got such a fright that she ran around the yard like a poultry possessed. She ran circles around the old squeaky gate, flapped and fluttered down to the old dam, and Splash jumped right in. Very slowly, she lifted her bedraggled, feathered head down the level of the water and looked around with frightened eyes. What was that? She asked herself. Somewhat a flap, something hard and bumpy just clocked me on the head. But there in the dam, all danger seemed to be gone. She looked at the sunny sun and the new daffodils peeking through the grass. A buzzy dragonfly swooped and hovered above the water's edge. She swam out of the dam and stood dripping on the grass. It was nearly Easter, and when it is nearly Easter, there is only one thing that is hard and bumpy worth talking about: Easter eggs. I do believe, said Henny Penny slowly, that is what must have hit me on the head, was an Easter egg. And if it came from the sky, that can only mean that the Easter bunny can fly. What a wonderful thing! Henny Penny was beside herself with excitement to tell the others. She tripped and skidded all the way back to the farmhouse, to the stinky shed where Ziggy Piggy slopped in the soft, hot mud, feeling the sunshine on his belly. Ziggy Piggy, said Henny Penny breathlessly aflap. Did you know that the Easter bunny can fly? He just dropped an egg on me, and it hit me on the head. The Easter bunny can fly, said Ziggy Piggy, laughing. With what wings? Well, an Easter bunny hasn't gotten wings, of course, flustered Henny Penny. So perhaps he was in a hot air balloon. People can fly in hot air balloons, you know. Why not the Easter bunny? Ziggy Piggy thought this was very funny. He decided to lift himself up from the mud. Oof, and go tell Tony Pony about the surprising news. He wandered over to the grassy field where Tony Pony was munching and twitching away flies. Tony Pony, said Ziggy Piggy. Do you know that the Easter bunny just flew over the farm in a hot air balloon? Wouldn't the hot air have melted his chocolate eggs? Asked Tony Pony. That is true. Ziggy Piggy paused to think about it. Then he said, perhaps he had a fridge in his hot air balloon to keep the chocolate eggs nice and cool. Tony Pony thought this was so funny that he curled his big lips back and laughed. His teeth were large as dirty piano keys. That is quite the story, said Tony Pony. I'd better tell Mucky Ducky. Mucky Ducky was wiggling and waddling all about the yard, searching for juicy worms and bread bits, when Tony Pony galloped up, hoofs throwing the clover high into the springtime air. Mucky Ducky, said Tony Pony. Did you know that the Easter bunny just floated past in a hot air balloon with a fridge in it to deliver Easter eggs to the farm? Mucky Ducky looked very surprised to hear that. But how could the Easter bunny run a fridge in a hot air balloon? He would need electricity. Tony Pony thought about that and then whined. Maybe he had a little hedgehog on a bicycle, pedaling very fast in order to make kinetic electricity. But where? Demanded Mucky Ducky. Hung by a ribbon from the back of the basket, of course, said Tony Pony. Mucky Ducky did laugh. The Easter Bunny in a hot air balloon with a fridge in it, powered by a hedgehog on a bicycle, attached to the basket with a string. Tony Pony nodded, very serious. Well, that is a tale, said Mucky Ducky. Let me tell my friend Conky the Donkey. He will get a laugh of that. Mucky Ducky scampered up to Conky the Donkey, who was rubbing his itchy flank against a knot in the fence by the apple tree. Conky Donkey, cried Mucky Ducky. Do you know that the Easter Bunny just floated past in a hot air balloon with a fridge in it, powered by a hedgehog on a bicycle, attached to the basket with a string? Conky Donkey just furrowed his brow. What? I said, did you know that the Easter Bunny just floated past in a hot air balloon with a fridge in it, powered by a hedgehog on a bicycle, attached to the basket with a string? Who said so? Said Conky Donkey. Everyone, said Mucky Ducky, and indeed everyone had now caught up to Mucky Ducky and were in great agreement, nodding their heads and looking very serious and convincing. And what was he doing, said Conky Donkey, in this hot air balloon? Delivering Easter eggs, squawked Henny Penny. One of them hit me on the head. Do you know there is probably a simpler explanation, said Conky Donkey. It was a little obvious, but it really had to be said. In case of the improbable, it's always more likely to be the simpler explanation. But what is the simple explanation? Asked the group of friends, bewildered. Conky Donkey just rolled his eyes at them. That it's raining Easter eggs, sillies, he said. Look. And over in the distance, it was true. There was a beautiful rainbow in all the colors of Easter eggs and more. Besides glittering in the bright blue sky, it's raining Easter eggs, cried all the animals, and they did a rain dance, or perhaps it was a happy dance, and waited for the chocolates to fall. The end. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out for my bedtime story. Thank you for watching.